Hi everyone, welcome to Tales of Dread. The northeastern states of the United States are a large area of rolling woods and mountain ranges that are said to be home to many cryptids that seem to be able to move through the uninhabited parts of these states without being seen very often. In April of 1977, people in a small town in the country of Massachusetts saw something they didn't want to see. Such a creature could have joined us as we looked into the story of the Dover demon, but her boyfriend kept driving the car through the twisty country roads. Abby Brabham was sitting next to him in the passenger seat, waiting for him to speak. The couple was on their way home from a party where they had gotten into a fight. She had made a comment about their relationship out of the blue, which made him lose his cool with her. Even though they had only been gone for 5 minutes, it felt like an eternity. Since he still hadn't said anything to her, she was starting to worry that this might be a bigger deal than she had first thought. She looked out the window of the car's passenger side at the countryside as the car's headlights briefly lit up the tree lines and fields. Now that they were close to her house, Abby had only a few minutes to try to figure out what was going on before she was dropped off. The 15-year-old girl was still trying hard to think of a way to break the tension when she suddenly saw something squatting on the side of the road up ahead. As the car kept moving forward, its bright headlights revealed a strange humanoid shape sitting on its back legs and staring at the car. Robin let out a loud gasp as the bright light from the high beams slowly showed the creature's face. It had a big head and a skinny, painfully thin body that was the color of a tan and had 4 long, skinny legs. The face of the thing had scared the girl the most. It had only eyes and no mouth or nose. The eyes were a pair of almond-shaped pits that seemed to look at her with a hungry and mean look as the car went by and the headlights caught them. At this very moment, the horror was only a few meters away, hiding on the side of the road. Will slammed his feet hard on the brakes as his girlfriend cried and pointed out the back window. This was caused by the cat's sudden scream. When he looked in the side mirror, he saw that the red color of the brake lights was reflecting off a short, skinny figure that had just gotten up from the side of the road. It seemed to look at him for a moment, and then it ran across the road, and into the bushes on the other side. In the days that followed, it became clear that the young couple weren't the only ones in town to have had this kind of experience or to be upset by the mysterious intruders or the otherworldly appearance. Sitting on the banks of the Charles River about 15 miles southwest of Boston, the small town of Dover had, as you might expect, always been quiet and unassuming. The town had not had much of an effect on the national scene because it had not produced many famous people and did not have a large collection of local historical documents. That was the case until Easter of 1977, when a number of teens in the area told of scary encounters with a strange, unnatural-looking figure that seemed to be stalking the fields and farmland near the town. These events were so scary that a lot of work was put into writing them down at the time they happened. As a result, a detailed profile of the creature was made that has stood up to decades of re-examination and investigation, putting both the creature and the site of it in the history books. On the evening of April 21st, 3 teenagers were driving home across town when they saw this strange thing. The Volkswagen they were in was driven by Bill Bartlett, who was giving his friends Mike Massaoka and Dandy Brody a ride. The 3 people were walking north on Farm Street when Bartlett saw something on top of a low stone wall on the left side of the road. At first, the young man thought that what he saw was probably a cat or dog that had gotten loose, but as the car got closer, he quickly realized that it wasn't anything like that. As the light shining on it got brighter, Bartlett could make out a number of scary-looking features. The creature was about 3.5 feet tall and definitely looked like a human. It was too big to be a house cat. Its skinny torso didn't look strong enough to hold up its big head, which sat on top of its shoulders and had nothing on it except for 2 big orange eyes. There was nothing to cover its bare body, which had skin that looked rough like sandpaper and was about the color of a peach. The strange-looking creature was moving slowly and carefully across the top of the wall. Its fingers like tendrils were curling around the stones to get a good grip. As the car passed by, the thing quickly disappeared into the darkness. Bartlett was excited and asked his passengers if they had seen it, but when he got home from dropping off his friends, they looked confused. The boy told his father what happened right away, and then he drew a picture of what he saw. He didn't know at the time that this sketch of the creature would not be the only one he would make that night. A few hours later, 15-year-old John Baxter was also walking home on the other side of town, at the southern end of Miller Hill Road. He had just spent a few hours at his girlfriend's house and knew that because it was late, he would probably get in trouble when he got home. As he hurried through the empty streets toward his destination, the young man saw another person walking toward him, from the opposite direction. At first, he thought the other person was a child because of its small size. Baxter slowed down to find out more, but the person in front of him did the same. The sky was cloudy, and the person in front of him was standing just outside, lit by a nearby streetlight. Whoever it was, they didn't move at all and seemed to be looking at him. Then, in an instant, the figure turned and ran off to the left, disappearing into a wooded gully that happened to run next to the road. Baxter gave chase, breaking into a sprint as he heard sounds of leaves rustling and twigs breaking up ahead of him. The boy thought he was alone when he stood at the bottom of the gully a few seconds later. Taking a quiet look around him, he saw something strange standing on top of a big rock next to a tree about 30 meters away. At that moment, a narrow shaft of moonlight peered out from behind the clouds, giving him just enough light to see what was in front of him. John Baxter saw something he had never seen before in the dim light. It was a strange-looking creature with a pale, ape-like body, and a painfully thin neck that looked like it was struggling to hold up its huge head. The face that was looking back at him from a short distance was blank, and had no features. Safer, there were dark spots where the eyes should have been. Baxter turned and ran as fast as he could, finally making it to the main road. A few minutes later, a car driving by stopped to find out what was going on. It was driven by a young couple who were worried enough about the boy's state of mind to offer to take him home. The picture that Baxter drew of the supposed creature turned out to look a lot like the one that Bill Bartlett made. The same can be said about a third picture that Abby Brabham would go on to draw after their meeting. On the next evening, the different drawings and ideas about the creature that would become known as the Dover Demon may be the most important reason. This strange series of sightings has been a mystery for a long time. Some commentators have pointed out what they think are similarities between the being's faceless, wide-eyed look and what people have said about traditional grey aliens. But the fact that the Dover encounters didn't involve a spaceship or similar technology seems to go against this idea. Many people think it might have been some kind of cryptid because the thing never tried to talk to or approach any of the witnesses. Instead, it always tried to get away from them. Massachusetts has a lot of rough, inaccessible terrain that is rarely visited by people. So, it may not come as much of a surprise that a lot of cryptids have been seen in the state. There have been sightings of Sasquatch, the giant winged thunderbird, and the mysterious dwarf-like hominids called G's. These creatures were first mentioned by Native Americans in their stories. Anthropologists who have studied the case say that all three Dover Demon sightings happened near water sources. This suggests that whatever the creature was, it may have been trying to stay close to its natural habitat. After these things happened, a local man named Mark Sennett came forward and told about an even older encounter with the creature. He would talk about an evening in the summer of 1972 when he was driving through the town and was startled by something that ran across the road in front of him. This unknown creature was very short and ran upright on two legs. It had a pair of eyes that were very brightly lit. After Sennett stopped his car, he watched the running figure go into the nearby woods, where it disappeared at the edge of a large pond. All of the sightings happened at night, and when plotted on a map, they seem to follow a straight line that goes through or across the local area. This raises the idea that whatever the witnesses saw might have been migrating or moving in a certain direction, as if the town itself wasn't important or interesting to the thing. This is a common idea when strange creatures or supposed monsters are seen, and it could be a reasonable explanation for what has been seen. Many people have said that the thing the teens saw might have been an orphaned moose cub with very pale fur. The legs of these animals are very long and skinny, and it has been said that in low light, their gait could be mistaken for a taller creature walking or running with its upper torso bent forwards. But Dover is not near any places where moose live in the area. To get around this rather annoying fact, there have been similar ideas put forward. Some people think that the Dover demon could have been an albino calf or another animal that escaped from a local collection, like an exotic ape or monkey, or even a deformed forest animal. And yet a simple glance at the creature depicted in the drawings by the teenagers at the time of the encounters suggests that what they saw could not have been any known species. Too many similarities show up in these sketches of something that didn't look or move like anything they had ever seen. Is it possible that the children were the victims of some elaborate hoax, or that they were instead the perpetrators of 1.5 centuries since the incident? No one in the town has seen the creature or anything else that looks like what they saw. That said, creatures like them have been seen in other parts of the world. In 1996, for example, Brazilian police were said to have caught a creature in Virginia that looked a lot like the one that was seen in Massachusetts in 1977. As of now, the events of that fateful weekend in Dover remain one of America's most intriguing mysteries. There is no proof to back up the stories of those who were there, and there is no logical way to explain what they saw. We have already talked about a number of strange cryptid sightings that are said to have happened in the US. As time goes on, these kinds of things keep happening, and often dashcam or cell phone videos show the animals involved. It's possible that at some point in the future, the proof needed to prove the existence of the Dover demon will show up. This would answer the questions about what happened in this quiet northeastern town's bedtime story.